Hello and welcome, episode 4 of the Sounds from the Dockside podcast. I'm your host, Dave, and today in the engine room, we've got renowned Grimsby actor, Tommy Turgoose.
How are we?
How's it going, mate? You all right?
Yeah, I'm all right. I'm good.
Nice to see you. Thanks for
you
coming
too.
on.
No, pleasure, mate. It's always weird to do things in Grimsby because I obviously spend so much time like working away. Most of the work predominantly is away from Grimsby, isn't it?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Whenever I do things like this, like locally, it's buzzing. I only got out of bed 20 minutes ago. So.
Yeah, well, honestly, mate, I can't tell you how glad I am you've come on, honestly.
Mate,
for us to get you as a guest this early on in our journey, honestly, so buzzing. So we like to kick our podcast off just by getting to know a bit about our guests.
Yeah.
So acting aside, all that aside, take us right back to the start. Just tell us a bit about yourself.
I was born February 92. All of my friends call me Tomo. I know locally a lot of people call me Tommy. I think that's down to the Grimsby Telegraph for some reason, but it's fine.
What do you prefer, Tommy or Tomo?
Yeah, all friends call me Tomo, yeah. Or are we allowed to swear?
Oh, swear as much as you want, yeah. Crack
You can
on.
imagine what my mates call me. So yeah, I was born, young Tomo. I was born in Scatha, or Scatho, as the posh people call it.
Yeah.
Fairfield Road. So I lived there for quite a bit of my childhood. And I was with a single mum who had 4 boys. I was the youngest. So we had Carl, Matthew and Jamie, all sort of within 5 or 6 years of each other. So as you can imagine, my mum had a sort of work cut out.
Had her hands full, mate.
100%. Which is why, like, now as a parent, now looking back, like, whenever I take my little boy who's 3, if I take him to the beach or if I take him to the arcades or, you know, do anything with him, I'm like, I actually appreciate my mum so much more than obviously any kid does growing up. So
I'm one of 5.
One of 5 boys as well, all boys.
4 boys, 1 girl.
Oh, okay.
My sister's the youngest, so my parents was like, we are not stopping until we get a girl.
So you all had some work.
Yeah,
some work
5th
to do
attempt.
looking after her growing up last year. Yeah.
But likewise, I've got a little girl. She's 8. I've not really reflected on it like that, like you said, but it's an handful, isn't it? Going out for the day with 1 kid, never mind going out with 4, and on your own as well, mate.
Yeah, mate, yeah, it is. I mean, my dad was around, and you know, he kind of the brothers sort of, me and the brothers sort of saw him as and when we did growing up and whatnot. But predominantly we all lived with my mum for a long time, and then two of my brothers then went and moved in with my dad. And then it was me and my eldest brother Carl who lived with my mum. And my mum was kind of like, she was always quite ill. She had sciatica, so she always had a bad back.
Yeah.
Struggled to work. She drank a lot. She smoked a bit of weed. And I say a bit, quite a lot. Yeah, she was kind of like, I mean, I'm not taking away from the fact that she was a great mum. Yeah. But she kind of struggled with day-to-day stuff.
She had her problems, mate, yeah.
Yeah, of course. Like, you know, like a lot of people. But yeah, I mean, that's not to say that we, you know, she didn't do everything for us that she could, and she did. So,
would you say it was quite? Would you say, obviously, with your mum and dad not being together, with your brothers, you know, with 2 of them moving in with your dad at part of your life, would you say it was quite chaotic? The family unit.
The whole family unit was always chaotic, and it still is now in a way.
Yeah.
But it was kind of chaotic, but it kind of made us like. It made us all stronger, and it made us all independent, and it kind of like we all kind of like fended for ourselves in our own way. We've never really been like a proper close family, which now, like growing up, like we just said, now we've got kids.
Yeah.
My main job in life is to make sure that we're a close family because of the family unit that I had growing up. So I'm kind of like, I use what I had growing up, i.e. the chaos and. You know, that it was unsettled. We moved around a lot. I was in different schools all the time. I never kind of knew. I didn't really have anywhere to belong, or I didn't really know what. I kind of, you feel like, because when you're a kid and you're moving around all the time in different schools, you kind of feel like you haven't got a purpose, and you start wondering why.
Yeah.
You're like, why am I being moved away all the time? And you start thinking, is it because of me? Is it my behaviour? And and then that all spirals off into
moving around when you're a kid as well. It affects your personal relationships with people. You know, you build up bonds with people, then you move school and you lose them bonds. Yeah, I think you don't realise it at the time, but when you're young, you really need that structure, don't you?
You need that routine.
You need that consistency. It sets you up, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, so moving around, which is why now I'm kind of at that age now where I'm starting to think about the things that happened to me when I was a kid, and it's like I'm dealing with them now. And that's not to say that in a sort of depressed way or anything like that. It is kind of like I'm just thinking about things more because of when, like you say, when we've got kids, you kind of, you know, there's little things that my little boy does that takes me back to my childhood and things that I might not have liked that scared me.
Yeah.
And then I try my best to make him think that it's okay. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like you deal with things that the older you get, and it's kind of like, yeah, like having, like, you don't realise how much having kids changes your life.
No, not at all, mate.
Actually,
no,
it's actually mental.
But for me, when I had my little girl, it was like, it's no longer about yourself.
No.
You know, you can't be selfish, can you? And sadly, I have been since I've had her at points. Do you know what I mean? Life's got in the way and stuff, but you can't afford to be selfish, can you?
No, you can't, but you know, but sometimes you can't help it. You know, you do things and make decisions, don't you? And then it kind of like, yeah, it kind of just steers you down one path or whatnot. Yeah, which is why I think that kind of family unit's so important, because if there's a day where I'm off or I'm feeling off, you know, Charlotte, my wife's on the ball, and it's kind of vice versa. And you kind of got that support unit. Do you know what I mean? You've got that network of family that, you know, you can kind of rely on each other. If you are struggling one day, then you can kind of rely on each other. And I guess I'm quite lucky in that sense. That
it's good that you got that support, mate.
Yeah, I mean, me and Charlotte now have been together for, 15 years we've been together now. So, yeah, it was a long time coming with the kids and that. So we're
you look like a sweet little family, mate. When I see you on Instagram and that, you look.
Everyone does on Instagram though. It's not always like that.
I know it's all bells and whistles on Instagram. But no, honestly, mate, you do look like a beautiful little family.
Oh, bless you, mate. I appreciate that. Yeah, we do all right. We know how lucky we are. So
yeah, spot on. So, you know, growing up in Grimsby, a lot of people perceive Grimsby to be the arse end of nowhere, end of the line. You know, what was it like growing up in an environment like this, where it is a very socially deprived area?
Yeah.
What was it like growing up in that, and then what it must have seemed a bit of a big change when you landed your first role.
Yeah.
How was it dealing with that transition in your life?
Grimsby's always been like my safe place. It's always been like you've just said, then it's the end of the line, but it's also the start of the line. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like people go, "Oh, you're at the end of it." It's like for us, it's the start.
Yeah.
And we can then go on. But yeah, I mean, I've always loved Grimsby since growing up. You know, I was knocked around literally outside this building for most of my childhood. And it's always been that kind of safe place for me. And you know, kind of when I go away working, like I'm on these film sets with amazing actors, and I'm meeting new people, and you know, you're doing all these brilliant things, and you get all the praise, and you don't have to, you know, you staying in nice hotels, and you get a nice food bought for you, da-da-da-da-da. And then I get back on the M180, and I get back on the A180, and then I see cold water, and then I smell the fish. And then I get home, and Charlotte's like, bang, changing nappies, do this, bath the little one, do
back
this.
To reality.
Back to exactly like that. And then I walk around the streets, and, I nip to B&M to get light switches, and I, get my, go to Aldi every day. And these are all the things that are like I need in my life, because I kind of like, it's easy to get swept up in when you're going away and you're on these huge film sets and everybody's doing everything for you. And it's kind of like, you can't, it's like a whole different world.
Do you think that's why a lot of young actors, I see a lot of young actors, not yourself, but, there's a lot of young actors who are prominent in the media who, they seem like they got into acting at a really young age, and then the brain hasn't developed properly.
Sometimes it's the case.
Do you think that's an element of it, because you're getting pampered in hotels and you're mixing with different people, and I bet there's the opportunity to go to different functions and rub shoulders with.
Yeah.
Do you think that just breaks someone when they get into that at such a young age, probably without the correct guidance or without someone holding them back?
I think guidance is the key. Because you get to an age where you're experimenting with alcohol and girls and all these sorts of things that you're experimenting with sex and all these sort of exciting things for teenagers when you're growing up. And like if you're away, and especially if you're on the telly, and when you're going out in these cities, and there's opportunities there for kind of whatever you want, really, in a sense, without sounding too much like a knobhead. But you kind of get these opportunities, but then you come back to Grimsby, which is predominantly where I spend most of my time and did growing up.
Yeah.
So like you go out in Grimsby and nobody cares. Nobody cares what I do. If anything, I get more grief because of it, which I prefer, Someone wants to give me a bit of grief because I can fucking give it back. Do you know what I mean?
I've not had it, but I can imagine it to get a bit boring when you get in,
Well, you kind of,
at the end of the day, like you're a person at the end of the day, aren't you? But I think people almost see that caricature of you, don't they, when they meet you and they don't know you.
Well, the thing is what people see, innit? People see what the Grimsby Telegraph are lazily typing up, and I say that because I mean it.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, they're doing their articles without any research, just pulling things off social media, and then that just opens up. That just opens, you know, the subject up to abuse, because that's what Grimsby Live is about. But then that's people's perception of you. You know, it's kind of like they don't see the good things that people do around the town. And you know, I'm not sitting here and saying that bigging up myself for the good things. The good things that's done here in this building.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, there's good things that have been done all over the town by, you know, loads of people like Zane. You know, there's so many people who are raising so much money for charity, but I just feel that the Grimsby Telegraph and that just don't seem to care about it. And it's like, if they spend half as much time putting effort into the good things that happen around the town.
Yeah, it is.
There's a lot of positivity about, but people just seem to focus on the negativity, and that's kind of frustrating, but I guess that's just the way it is.
It's at the end of the day, just trying to get clicks out there.
Just trying to get clicks,
mate. Trying to get them ad sales up, them impressions up out there. That's what they're trying to do at the end of the day.
Grimsby's a good place, and you know, people should be proud to be from Grimsby. And it's like, all right, we haven't got, you know, the London Eye, or we haven't got all this the stuff that London or Manchester's got, but you know, we've got what we've got, and for me, it's enough. You know, I can see why people want to move away, but
there's something about this town, isn't there? I'm always drawn back here. Do you know what I mean? I was in the army for a few years before. Okay. I based out in Cyprus for 6 months. You know, like half an hour drive from Napa. You know, it was like paradise in a sense. Yeah. When I got back to Grimsby, I was buzzing. Do you know what I mean? I was so glad to be back.
So there is something special about driving. Like, and what's nice that no matter which way you come in, you see whether it's on the A46 or on the M18, you see the Dock Tower, and it's just like kind of, it's just that like home feeling. Don't get me wrong. There's sometimes I kind of look and I go, nothing's changed for a while, and da-di-da. But then I'm actually like, that's exactly why I love it, because it's just, you know, it's home, innit? It's comfort for people. And yeah. I mean, it's not to say that I never would move away, because if, you know, if work came and I had to and I had no choice, then maybe. But I will try as hard as I can to stay here. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
So, me and you, I didn't know you back then, but you used to attend Shower Youth Club, didn't you?
Yeah.
And I believe that's how you first got involved with the This Is England project, isn't it?
Yeah.
So for our listeners, can you tell us how that came about? And not just tell us how it came about, but can you try and give people an idea of what Shower Youth is to Grimsby and to people of East Marsh in particularly?
Yeah. So the Shower Youth Club, when I remember when I was, well, I don't remember the exact moment, but Michaela, who still works there now, so she must have been there for 30 years now, Kayla. Yeah. She walked around the corner one day and saw me and my mate Nath years ago, and said, "What you two doing?" We were just up to no good as we was. And she was like, come to this centre called the Space Project. It was part of the Shalom Youth Club. So we went round and we kind of got introduced to everybody, to all the kids who was just the same as us, really. You just, you know, kind of come from complicated backgrounds, you know, parents who might not have had much or just had no control over the kids. And it was kind of, because when you know, the East Marsh back then was kind of, it was a bit of a free-for-all, really.
I think the East Marsh has regularly been, you know, in the top 10 most socially deprived areas in the UK. You know, not just in the town, in the whole of the UK. So
so it was kind of like you said, the East Marsh was kind of like, it was. And it still is kind of, like you say, socially deprived. But that's not to say that the people aren't amazing, because people, you know, it gets you know, ripped to pieces in the media and whatnot. But I could confidently walk through there at midnight and know that I'd be okay.
And
I wasn't looking for trouble. I'd find trouble.
And the sense of community and people depend on each other in these deprived communities.
Exactly, yeah.
There's none of that. I live in Scaffer, do you know what I mean? Yeah. I couldn't go to anyone on my street. I don't really know anyone on my street. But when I lived on East Marsh, you know everyone, don't you? Everyone knows
everyone, and it's kind of like, you know, you know, people who aren't from around there might walk through the streets, and you know, the locals might be a bit curious and whatnot. At the end of the day, that, you know, the salt of the earth people, and I genuinely mean that. Like, and it's the same with the Nunsthorpe as well, like the Nunny and the Willers and the Wyber, all those, you know, estates that are sort of got a bit of a bad rep. I mean, I was on the Nunny with my my wife looking for puff pastry on Christmas Eve because we left it till last minute. And, and there was a couple of lads outside the shop, and there was like, "Oh, how you doing, Daddy Dan?" I didn't know the kids, and they just had a chat, and I never felt intimidated at all. And that's the kind of like you said, the kind of salt of the earth kids that they are. So places like the Shall Youth Club and the Space Project are kind of like, and I know they're all over, or they used to be all over for the kids on the estates and things like that. They're kind of they're there for like a bit of a hub and a bit of a safe haven for the kids to go to learn, social skills, people skills, life skills, silly little things like making a cup of tea.
Yeah,
little things like that we kind of learn along the way that that can be useful later on in life because we all have a good brew. So I went there. And I must have been 12 when I went there, and it was all funded by the schools at that point. So my school had me in there for, I think, 2 days a week at the Space Project.
Was you struggling in school?
I never went.
I
literally never went. Yeah.
So that was kind of like you've got to do something.
Well, it was I was on Winchingham's books, and because I was at Phoenix House, and then they got me into Winchingham. I think I was there for a week before I got excluded and put into a unit because my behaviour was just that bad. And then I kind of got rewarded if I attended school 3 days a week into the unit. I was then able to go to the Space Project for 2 days a week. And I loved the Space Project that much. I was kind of like, I would go to school, questionable behaviour, but I would turn up.
Yeah.
And then I would go to the Space Project for the other 2 days.
Sounds like at that point in your life, then, mate, it kind of gave you a bit of purpose, didn't it?
It did give me a purpose, yeah. And also, like, the people that I was hanging around with are people that I'm still mates with nowadays. And the workers as well. It's kind of like, I'll never forget the people who kind of spent all their time looking after us as kids. Yeah, so I was then rewarded with 2 days a week there. I mean, I'd try and turn up at the Space Project 4 days a week, but they'd be like, no, you got to go to school. So, yeah, and then I left the Space Project when I got put in full-time education. It was after This Is England. So basically, I was at the youth centre for a couple of years, and I remember walking around the street, around the corner one day, and there was a big group of people outside, and I didn't know what was going on. I thought there might have been a fight or whatever. So I went running over to see what was happening anyway. And then Des Hamilton and Al Mackay. Des Hamilton's one of the most respected casting directors in the industry. It has been for a long time. And Al Mackay, who at that time was a casting assistant, he's now directing his own stuff, so that's brilliant.
Okay.
So I met those two, and they was like, "Do you want to audition for this film?" And I was like, "What do you mean?"
Was it completely out of the blue then? You didn't know nothing or anything, and you just walked the corner, and they're like, "Don't suppose you want to be in a film, mate?"
And then John Ellis, Vicar John Ellis, who's still there now.
Yeah.
I think he must be 106 now. He's
107 actually.
107, but he'll still chase you around the streets. And John was like, "Yeah, they're auditioning kids for a film. Why don't you give it a go? Like, they might like your charisma and your charm and your cheek." So I was like, not really that bothered. And then they said, "Come on, let's just do this little audition." And I thought, well, I've never ever thought about being an actor. Never. And kids from Grimsby, we don't get chances like this.
It's just don't happen around here, does it? Yeah,
it's not, do you know what I mean? I was just Tomo from Guildford Street, so it was like, I was a little shit because everyone told me that I was, and I acted like a little shit, and that's just the way it was. So I was like, so I said to Des, "I'll do the audition, but I want a £5 for the audition," because I was like, well, if I'm not getting, I know I'm not going to get the job. There's no way they're going to give it to me. So
that's great, mate. That's great. I'll do it, but I want a £5.
Yeah, because I thought, well, I'm going to get a bit of money for my time because I was always hustling when I was a kid, always out to make money.
Got to, mate, on the marsh.
Exactly, yeah. So then I did the audition, and then they said, "Oh, well, can we get your mum's telephone number if we want to see you again, Daddy?" And then they rang my mum and said, "Oh, would Tomo come and meet Shane Meadows, the director?" Obviously, I didn't know Shane at this time.
Just a name to you, I suppose, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Not knowing exactly who he was.
So them film knobheads are on the phone. They want to see you again for another audition. Playing GTA or something.
Was that buzzing another £5?
I was like, yeah, but tell them I want a tenner this time. So then I got my tenner and met Shane. And just from day one of meeting Shane was just kind of like, he was just one of the warmest men. Still is now. He's coming down on Saturday for the Notts County game.
Yeah.
And he's kind of like, he's it's like a second dad to me, I guess. Yeah, so meeting Shane, and then he kind of like, we just fell in love with each other all straight away, instantly. It was just like this kind of like father-son bond. And then, yeah, just from then on. But then the meetings then led on to phones and PlayStation games. So before I knew it, I had loads of stuff from him, and I was like, well, I don't care if I get this film or not.
Yeah, yeah.
And then they asked me to do the film, and I was kind of like, even still then.
So just, sorry, mate, to interrupt, but what's the timescale on this? So from you getting your first fiver to you working on set, how long was that, would you say?
I reckon from getting my first fiver to going to Nottingham to meet all the rest of the actors to do like some workshop stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
I reckon maybe 3 or 4 weeks.
Oh, so a really quick process then. Yeah, really quick process.
And then I met all of the other kids, all the other, what felt like adults to me. You know, but at that time, I met Joe Hartley, who played my mum in This Is England, and also Stephen Graham, who plays Combo.
Yeah.
And what they did for me was just like, they kind of really took me under the wing. Joe Hartley was like my mum. Stevie Graham was like a big brother, and it was kind of like they just took me under their wing and looked after me and spoiled me because they knew that's what I loved. You know, Stephen was buying me new trainers all the time. He was buying me new hats. He was buying me. He was giving me money. He was buying me food. He was. I'm not saying that he was buying my affection, but he knew, like, he just knew the way to get concentration from me. If they wanted me to concentrate, like, just give him 20 quid.
Probably, you know, not to say stereotype shit, but he probably had an idea of who you were
when he was a kid.
Yeah. Probably had an idea of who you was, you know.
Misunderstood, working class, just kind of like been through a lot. Yeah. Yeah, so Stevie kind of took me under his wing, as all of them did, really. But I remember just like in the first sort of workshop session with them all, I remember just running around with a pack of polos, going, do you want a polo, do you want a polo, do you want a polo? Just give it. But yeah, I was just kind of like this cheeky little kid, really. Yeah, and then they spoke to my mum and said, would you want to do the film? And I was like, how much am I getting paid? Because I wasn't bothered about the film at that point. It was just like I didn't really care. I wanted a bit of money, you know.
Just for the listeners, how old was you when you did This Is England?
I would have been 13 maybe when we shot it, and then 14 when it was released, maybe, or 14 and then 15. It was about that age, about 13, 14.
So
still a kid, like a baby, really.
Yeah. 13. You think you know everything at 13, don't you? You don't know.
No, you don't really.
You haven't got a clue. So. Obviously, This Is England was a very pivotal role for you, wasn't it? I think the story of how it came about is just so fascinating. You know, I really think it is. It makes me wonder what was going through Shane's head at the time to go, you know what, I think we should pop to Grimsby to maybe cast this part.
Well, he was casting all over the country, thousands and thousands of kids. Thousands of kids, because Shane's always done that. And it's interesting now because he's always done street casting. He's always worked with first-time actors and non-actors. And it's interesting now, having gone back and worked with Shane as a professional actor, if you'd say. Yeah. And doing the workshops with first-time actors now. So I've gone and worked with Shane and sort of workshopped and auditioned people who've never acted before. Kind of like where, you know, Joe Hartley and Stephen was with me when I was a kid. Yeah. So it's kind of interesting now to go in as the professional, experienced actor. And be that kind of like, be the experience on the job, which is weird. That
experience you had with Stephen and that probably, you know, set you up in some sort of way for how you 100%. Behave around these new and upcoming actors.
Well, you're always learning, aren't you? You kind of like, it's interesting. I saw something with Robert De Niro when he did The Irishman with Stevie Graham, because he was doing it about aging him up and making him look younger and stuff. He was like, basically says, I'm Robert De Niro, but I'm still learning. There's new things. I'm learning stuff all the time. Said I don't know everything about the industry. There's so much to learn, which is exciting, isn't it? When you think that, you know, Robert De Niro saying things like that, it's kind of like, there's like, where does it end? You know what I mean? That's why it's exciting. Yeah. That's why, you know, and I learned so much from Stevie and from Joe and from everyone on This Is England. I'm not just going to keep dropping Stephen's name because of who he is. You know, there's people on that job that I look up to that haven't gone on and done so well, but in their own way have kind of, you know, shaped a lot of people's lives around them. So we're quite lucky in that sense.
When I started this podcast, started a bit of a vision board for who do I want on this? You know what I mean? If I could have anyone, who would it be? And obviously you come on it and you accepted. But Stephen Graham's on there because I think his story is amazing. So Stephen, if you're listening, come on.
I'll send it to him.
So that obviously landing the This Is England role at 13. How did that experience you? How did that influence you as a person around that time?
It was mental. I remember, but it suited me because I was mental.
Yeah.
I was off my head all the time. I was just eating Mars bars and drinking full fat Coke all day, and just like a bundle of energy, to the point where Shane had to kind of like put me onto Orangina or things with like no sugar in, because I was just like they sometimes couldn't handle me. But I was, it was chaos, but I was like a whirlwind of laughter and fun and chaos, but also like, there's a job to be done. And
do you feel like you grew up a bit when you got that role? Do you feel like it's a massive thing to get involved with, mate? When you're such a young age, that's a huge thing to get involved with, isn't it?
I don't think I grew up. I was always quite wise anyway.
Yeah.
But then what it was is, so we made the film, and Stephen and Joe Hartley and Shane Meadows and all of the cast, actually, and all the crew kind of made my mum, at the wrap party, they made my mum a promise. They was like, I promise you, we're not just going to let Tomo go back to Grimsby, get back up to his old ways and just waste what he's done here.
Yeah.
And obviously at this point we didn't know the scale of what the film was going to do. We kind of just thought it might be a British film that kind of disappears.
It's a cult classic, mate.
But at the time we never knew that. So yeah, they made my mum this promise, and then my mum passed away. So we finished the film in September. Then my mum passed away in December, so not long after we finished it. So she never got to see the film. But I remember when my mum passed away that morning, Stephen and Shane were the first people that I found. And before I put the phone down, they was on the way here. 4 a.m, they was in the car on the way here.
That's beautiful, man.
And yeah, they kind of like, they was like my support network at that time. Obviously I had my family and my brothers and stuff, but those people were such a huge part of my life at that time. And they kind of like, yeah, I get that was the point where I think I kind of grew up and kind of thought about my actions a bit more, because, my behaviour kind of had a huge effect on my mum growing up.
Yeah.
But as a kid, you don't know that. You're kind of like, well,
you're ignorant to it, aren't you? You don't know. You're in your own head, aren't you? You don't give a shit.
Like, deal with it. It's fine. But then when my mum passed away, I was kind of like, I kind of had that realisation. I was like, I hope she never passed away thinking that I was a little shit. She probably did because of my behaviour. But I mean, that for me then was kind of like, right, well, now you've got a choice to make here. You can use the death of your mum to go down the route of causing carnage and chaos, and you've got an excuse for that, and people will understand it within reason. Or you can go down the other route and you can change your life, and you can get back into school, and you can use this opportunity, take all the advice that you're getting from all these people, and make a career out of what you've been given. And, with the help of my dad and my stepmom and my brothers and my friends and, all of the This Is England lot, I went down the kind of career path. And yeah, that was kind of my main objective from then, was kind of to make sure that my mum was looking down and that saying, I'm proud of you. I'm glad that you've sorted yourself out, as opposed to using this as an excuse to go on a path of destruction. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I lost my mum a few years ago. She was ill for probably about 7 years before she passed away. Like deterioration, to a point she deceased. But I had a moment when... How
did she pass away? Sorry if you don't mind me.
It's a bit complicated. She had numerous issues. She had problems with her heart. She was a big smoker. She loved smoking. She would have had a fag on going out if she could. Do you know what I mean? She loved it. But I had that. The night after, it was early hours of the morning. She passed away. Went to go, spend the final moments with her in the hospital and whatnot. But then I had that crossroads. I've typically younger. I would sort of self-harm with substances and stuff. Do you know what I mean? It was like, you don't realise you're self-harming, but you are, when you're using substances.
Yeah.
But I had that path, I had that crossroads, and I'm glad I didn't go that way. Do you know what I mean? I thought, I need to be a rock here for my siblings, for my dad.
And it's so easy to do.
I need to, and I'll be honest, it can kind of fuck me up a bit, because I didn't grieve at the time when she passed away. I was everyone's rock in a sense, which probably sounds a bit ignorant because we was all each other's rocks. But I felt like in myself, I had to be switched on. I had to be.
But that's a grown-up thing to do.
Yeah, but I'm so glad, because when you choose that other way, it's difficult to come out of that. A lot of people don't come out of that. This wasn't. daughter's 8 and she was 2, so 6 years ago. So 20, 26, 27,
26,
around
27.
that. Yeah,
so you're
yeah.
at the age where like you should be out going and, you know, kind of making your own mistakes and experimenting doing this. Out, whereas instead you kind of had all that to deal with.
Well, I had my little girl at home. Do you know what I mean? My little girl, she was young at home, and I could have quite easily not, you know, I could have quite easily just gone, fuck this, you know, I'm going to check out for a couple of weeks now. But I'm so glad I didn't, mate. I'm so glad I did. I'm so glad you didn't as well, mate.
I mean, I'm sure that your daughter's the same, and like you said, it's not easy decisions to make, is it? And it's not like you sit there and go, right, shall I go out and get fucked, or shall I stay at home and do this? It's not that simple, is it? But it's kind of like it's all in your subconscious mind and about how you deal with things. And I guess that's just a testament to you and you know how strong you are and you know the way that
yourself,
you deal.
mate.
Yeah,
to yourself,
But I think that's kind of Grimsby as a whole. I think we are quite resilient, aren't we? We are kind of
massively,
we're resilient, and we don't want to just say we get on it, get on with it, because well, I guess we do. But you know, it's kind of like. Yeah, but you just struck a chord then when you said about grieving properly. And I think, weirdly, I find that I've been grieving more since having my little boy. Because then you start thinking about parenting and what it means to be a parent. And then you start thinking about all the things that I did to annoy my mum, or, you know, just not listening. And you know, there's all these things that you kind of like, I find that I'm grieving more now as a parent than I did when I was a kid.
Yeah, it's like at the time when it happened, like I said, trying to be a rock, trying to maintain a full-time job, etc. It's like a few years passed and then you kind of had the space, you know, well I did anyway, I had the space to grieve. Do you know what I mean?
You just go, fucking hell, like you've been through a lot, do you know what I mean? Yeah. But at the time, when my mum passed away, I was kind of distracted. And I remember someone did say that to me about like, you need to grieve properly because if you don't, it'll catch you on later on in life.
But what does that mean? What does you need to grieve properly?
I mean, my mum passed away in December, and then I was so hung up on, I was traveling the world with this film and people were, you know, shouting my name and people were asking me for pictures in the street and, you know, there was girls and it was exciting. I was getting to stay in beautiful. So I was kind of like distracted away from grieving. I was kind of too busy to grieve, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
But then maybe that's kind of why I rebelled a little bit when I was like 18, 19, when I'd not really been at home, been away a lot working. I'd not really seen much of my mates. I got to like 18, 19. And then I just kind of like got to a point where I was like, I just can't be arsed with being away anymore. I want to be at home. And then I started drinking loads when I was 18. You know, like most 18, 19-year-olds do.
Yeah.
Just going out on big benders for days on end and spent all my money and had loads of fun. Like, there's no denying that. But then, like, as I got older, I'm kind of like, and maybe that was my grieving. Maybe that was my grieving going out, you know, and just kind of going on benders for days and just not, kind of, it's escapism, innit?
Yeah,
That's why people do it, because it kind of takes you away from reality for a while. Do you know what I mean?
I think like the loss of a significant other, you know, parent or sibling, whatever. I don't think you ever stop grieving in a sense. I think the grieving process continues forever. But I think the way you deal with that grief, I had someone put it perfectly to me. They said, grief is like the tide. It comes in every day. Some days it's stronger than others. Some days it comes in lower, you know, and it's how you manage that tide. And how you respond to that tide. That really helped me when in the thick of it. That gave me a bit of solace because I thought, you know, when you're grieving, you think, oh, it's ever going to stop. And then the second I said, it's never going to stop, but it will get easier, do you know?
Yeah,
that analogy,
you never stop thinking
that analogy helped me with that, you know? And I think when I lose my dad, you know, which, you know, I never wish I do, but the reality is I will at some point. Yeah. I feel like I'm probably going to be a bit better prepared now.
But that's it, yeah. And I sometimes think of that like that, but because people say, oh, you know, you shouldn't think about that. But like me and my dad are super close now. And I'm kind of like, I feel like I will, I'm better prepared to deal with it. But also I'm an adult now and me and my dad have got this bond and this bond is like really fresh. So I'm like, oh God, I don't know. It's a depressing thought to think about, isn't it?
It is really depressing.
It's just kind of like you've just got to.
But we're getting to that age, mate, you know.
It's life, isn't it, unfortunately?
We was both born 92, so so the same age. And we are getting to that age where, unfortunately, you know, the generation above us, they're getting old, they're getting frail, mate. I don't think there's anything wrong.
Most of it. And I know it's like, I don't want to sound too wanky by saying like, you've got to live every day as if it's your last and da-da-da. But you really have.
Have you got that as wall art in your living room?
Yeah, on the wall. Yeah, I've got it tattooed on me, yeah. No, but you have. You've just got to appreciate it, haven't you? And just kind of like, that's why when I see family members who aren't talking to each other, like, I'm not fucking talking to him, he's in our bed. I'm like, oh, please. Just like, it's not whatever's
Life's
gone
too
on.
short,
It's not,
innit?
life is too short. Again, it's like those wanky quotes that keep coming out, but it's like, it really is. I know, and again, like I remember when I was younger, when like my mates used to speak to the mum like crap. They'd speak to him like shit, and dad, and I'd be like, please, like just don't talk to your mum like that, because like you never know. Luckily, me and my mum never went to bed that night on an argument, but had we have done, do you know what I mean? Like you never know. You never know what's going to happen.
And you can kick yourself over the most stupid shit, can't you?
Yeah.
Do you know what I
It's
mean?
harder as a kid, because as a 14-year-old, you kind of hate the world, don't you? You're blaming parents.
Well, your frontal lobe's not developed.
Exactly.
Your brain's still mush, mate.
But what I do like now is it's cool for blokes to tell the mum that they love them every day, and do you know what I mean? Calling them mumsy. You know, just like one of my mates, Connor, who's like this big hard lad, and he's in the army, and you know, most of the people everyone knows not to fuck with him. He's a big solid lad. Tells his mum he loves him every day on the phone, and it's like I like that because it's cool now.
Yeah,
and I like that it's cool to tell your parents that you love them, because like it's important. It is important.
Mate, I messaged my dad going, "Love you, Dad." He just puts back, "Okay."
Yeah, but then that's the old school generation, isn't it? My dad told me he loved me the other day, and I was like, this is weird.
They save it, don't they? They're like, they save it when it's really going to hit. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I'm not saying it in passing.
But you kind of do, like when, you know, like when my dad told me he loved me the other day, it's kind of like, you kind of think, fucking hell, I needed that. Do you know what I mean? But that generation of dads, it was totally different. Like, I get it. It's not like, you know, like we're now as dads, we're kind of like lovey-dovey, and I tell my little boy I love him every day. And, you know, that's the kind of like, that's the way that parenting's changed, isn't it? But back then,
old school.
Yeah, we're old school.
Children should be seen and not heard.
Someone said that to me the other day, and I was like, how sad is that?
My dad said it the other day, and I thought, fucking hell, Dad, you're still that old-fashioned.
Yeah, seen and not heard. Well, why have us then? Fucking hell.
Family allowance, mate. So, back to your career, mate. Are there any particular roles or projects that you're most proud of?
I mean, again, not to sound too wanky, but I guess all of them have kind of like, every job that I've done has been important for me for many reasons. Whether that be, you know, I did a commercial for Coca-Cola that no one has ever seen, but the money was really good for it.
Isn't that you running through a field or something?
So people have seen it then. Yeah, it was the Olympics one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you get like 100k for that or something?
I can't remember what I got paid for it, but I know it was good money at the time. And I was kind of like, again, you know, people should never do jobs for the money, but I was kind of like, I'm fucking doing it for the money. But I remember being at 18 and getting paid all this money for this job, and I was kind of like, so even then, like that kind of like, that set me up for a little while, and I had loads of fun with it. I mean, it didn't last me very long, but I had fun with it. And, you know, so for every reason, for a different reason for every job, there is kind of like, you know, I'm super proud of them all, but I guess the most fun I ever had on a job was This Is England 86, because we all got back together again. We'd all stayed in touch. We'd all seen each other, you know, at parties and whatnot. But Shane rang us and said, let's meet in Sheffield. I want to talk about turning a film into a series. And then that was a quick turnaround. From that meeting to being on set was probably a couple of months. And I'd just turned 18. And I think I'd just done that advert for Coca-Cola. So I had some money in the bank. And we was in Sheffield, and we got given these beautiful flats in the city centre. Because the film had done so well, every nightclub wanted us in there for free, giving us all our drinks. And it was kind of like, we kind of had a little bit of a key to the city. And it was brilliant. Like, we had so much fun in Sheffield. Like,
how many years was it from the film to, so you was 13 when you filmed?
Yeah, 14. Film? Yeah, maybe it was released when I was 14, and then 4 years, maybe, 3 or 4 years.
Did you spend much time with the cast? Obviously, you made some really good friends, didn't you?
Yeah, I'd spent a lot of time with like Stephen and Joe Hartley and Shane Meadows, obviously the director, because obviously the film was predominantly about Sean, which was my character. So I spent a lot of time doing a lot of the press and a lot of the traveling and things like that, and a lot of the Q&As and things. So I was fortunate that I got to spend a lot of time with different people. But we all stayed in touch anyway.
Yeah.
You know, we was all sort of traveling around. A lot of them had come here. you know, a minibus of them turned up for my mum's funeral, like literally a bus full of the This Is England lot. So yeah, we all stayed in touch. And then when we got that phone call saying, let's meet in Sheffield to talk about a series. And then when we started, it was mental. When I think back about like the chaos that we caused in that city, is like, it's brilliant. But
what's the wildest story? Come on, share it with our listeners.
It's cancel culture nowadays.
What's the wildest one you can share?
Well, we had all these flats. We had these flats, and for some reason, it might have been Woody that suggested that we all buy these paintball guns, like BB guns, paintball gun thing. It was really powerful. So you could put the BBs in, the little yellow pellets, or you could put paint pellets in. And so our flat was like the party flat, because I shared with Gadget. So we had the party flat. And what we'd do is we'd line like 50p's, 20p's, £2 coins, pound coins, 5 pences, obviously 5 pence being the hard one, right across the other side of the flat. And we'd all move the sofas and we'd line them up and we'd shoot them. And we was all, and it was on one of the last days, and I was just about to fire it, and Gadget kind of went, Tomo, stop. And I was like, why? And he went, just stop. And he went and looked, and all of the tile, all of like the where we'd been lining up on the side, it was all shattered because we'd been missing that much, and all the tiles were all cracked. So but we hadn't noticed because we was probably too fucked. But on that last day, and we was trying to fill it in with like bars of soap, trying to rub the soap or just trying to filler it somehow. Anyway, then when we checked out, they obviously saw all the damage to the flats, and I think we all ended up. I think we had about $2,500 bill that we had to front between like 4 or 5 of us. So I mean, just things like that. And, we'd take the paintball guns to set, and we'd fire them at crew members and at each other. And which are kind of now, when you think about it, like shooting crew members would get you fucking sacked nowadays. Yeah, it would, but kind of This Is England was just like, we had this like it wasn't freedom, but we all had an understanding of what the job was, and everyone was there to have fun. Nothing was too serious. And, if things got serious, we'd all sit down and have a grown-up chat about, the do's and don'ts. But there was kind of this just kind of like amnesty zone of just
chaos.
We were just chaos, and we was all family. All of the crew as well. It wasn't just the cast. The whole crew, every single person that was involved in that job was kind of like, we was all family. So it was just, the whole job was like super special.
Yeah, community and belonging are a really big really big theme in the This Is England film, aren't they?
Yeah. It kind of always, from day one. But we're like the gang that you see on the film and on the telly in the series. That's the gang that we are.
Yeah. And
weirdly, it is kind of like Joe Gilgun, who plays Woody, never really come out that much, but he was the leader when he came out. He was the gang leader.
Yeah.
And then like Andy Ellis, who plays Gadget, he was always the one that we all picked on and had fun with. And I was the baby of the group, and it kind of all was like that. That gang kind of. It kind of mirrored itself when we was out in Sheffield on nights out, not in character.
That's probably why it worked so well then on set. If there was that natural chemistry there between you all.
Natural chemistry, the trust.
And you're carrying that, but...
Yeah. That's why secretly they loved us going out.
Yeah.
The producers, they say that they didn't like it, but it wouldn't be what it was if we wasn't out all the time.
Yeah.
Which is why now when people say, would we do another This Is England? And I'm like... I mean, I'd love to. I'd jump at the chance, but I can't do it now. I don't like going out.
Yeah.
I'm not buying paintball guns, and I'm not out chasing skirt, or I'm not out. I'm not doing all this.
It wouldn't be the same for you.
It wouldn't be the same. Yeah. I know, but you kind of like.
It's good that you admit that, mate.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? If you're just honest, if it's run its course for you, it's run its course, hasn't it?
Like, it's kind of my interests are different now. I'm not I'm not bothered about going out and chatting up girls, or. I'm not bothered about going out and getting off my face. I'm not those sorts of things don't interest me anymore.
What do you look for in a role nowadays then?
Money, still money.
It's just money, is it?
It's just money. I love money. I mean, what do I look for? I guess I'm really lucky that I got with my agent when I was 14, 15, as soon as the film came out.
Yeah.
So I've been with the same agent ever since, and they made a promise to me and my dad. They was like, when Tomo's old, he'll look at his IMDb or on his CV, and he'll be proud of everything that he's done, and every job that he's taken will be for a reason. And so far so good. Like, I look at it, there's the odd little thing that I might have done that, you know, might not have done as well, or, you know, you're not going to get them all correct. But yeah, looking back at my CV now, I'm buzzing of everything that I've done. And I think that's all down to my agent. So, you know, I get sent a lot of scripts, and my agent will be like, we think this is good for this reason, da-di-da-di-da. And I might go, I don't think it is. And they'll be like, why? And then we have a discussion. And, you know, when there's no pressure from either side, if they send something that I don't like, they're cool with it. So, yeah, but I don't know, I want those sort of more grown-up roles now, I think. Yeah. Like, I got sent something the other day, and I'm like, it's to play like someone who's like me when I was 18. Do you know what I mean? Just constantly out and off their head all the time. I'm reading it, and I'm like, oh, that sounds tiring. To play that role sounds tiring. You know, just full of energy all the time. And I'm just thinking, knackering that. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not really like...
How did the Game of Thrones thing come about? Because you play a really, really small cameo in Game of Thrones. With Ed Sheeran as well. It's, like, this has been booked for a few weeks now, hasn't it? Yeah. And my missus said the other day, she went, I can't believe it's episode 4 and you've already got a cast member from Game of Thrones on. Yeah, because she absolutely loves Game of Thrones. And I thought, I'd never really put Tommy to Game of Thrones.
It looks good on the CV, doesn't it?
Yeah, it looks amazing.
As long as you don't delve too deep into it, it does look good on the CV.
How did that come about?
So I got a phone call from my agent saying, we're sending you through this script. It's called The Big Tree, but it's actually Game of Thrones. So obviously they couldn't say what it was for.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, buzzing. So I went down and did the audition and met the casting director, and then kind of put it to the back of my mind, the audition. And then I was driving home from London a few weeks later from something else with my friend, and my phone rang, and it was my agent, and it was like, great news, they've offered you Game of Thrones. And I remember being like, oh.
Nice.
I was going to ring Charlotte, and I was going to be like, buy a chopper, like, we've made it. Like, yes, we're going to buy an house down Humberston Ave. So I kind of composed myself, and I said to my agent, I was like, oh, but, you know, playing it cool. Oh, yeah, buzzing, nice one, yeah. When do we start? And I said, so when are they going to send the rest of the scripts? And my agent was like, oh, no, that's it. And I was like, what, one scene? She was like, yeah. I was like, oh, gutted. I thought, honestly, like, in that moment, I thought my life was changed forever. Because I'm thinking, Harrington gets 500 grand an episode. I'm thinking, fucking buzzing. And then, one scene. But in hindsight, I was watching Game of Thrones at the time. I think I was on like series 2 or 3. And you know what it's like if you've watched it? You're obsessed with it.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So I was like a competition winner. When I got to set and I was getting they was trying all these silly wigs on me, and then Emilia Clarke walks in, who plays the Mother of Dragons. And she was lovely. Sat down, we was having a chat, and there was fitting a wig for her. And then Kit Harington walked in, and like Jon Snow, and I was like a kid. I was this is mental. So so it was worth it just for that. And then like obviously my scenes were with Maisie Williams, who plays Arya Stark, and just like she was super cool. And then like Ed Sheeran. So yeah, I got on really well with him.
Do you think I'd had the same process as you, who sat watching Game of Thrones at home and he got a call like,
I imagine
we want you to...
Yeah, or he just woke up one day and thought, fuck it, I want to be in Game of Thrones.
Yeah, I like that. I'm going to be in that.
So yeah, but he was super cool as well. He was like one of them. I was blown away by the fact he loved This Is England, and said he watches it on the tour bus and stuff. So, and he was the biggest star in the world at that point. I think.
Oh yeah, he's still huge, mate.
He was massive. So yeah, I was sat with Ed Sheeran and Arya Stark all day in Belfast, and I was just like wearing Game of Thrones. And that was a pinch me moment. I was like, this is like a kid from Grimsby. Like, how have I ended up here?
Yeah, it's great, mate.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that was brilliant. But like, it's amazing because I did one scene in Game of Thrones. I was on my honeymoon in Mexico, and a guy, I don't know whereabouts in America he was from, but he come up to me and he was like, you were in Game of Thrones. And I was like, you recognise it from one scene? He was like, we know everyone. Yeah. And like the amount of people that say, oh, you were in Game, people have never seen This Is England, which is predominantly what people recognise me for.
Yeah.
People come up to me and say, oh, I recognise you from Game of Thrones. And I'm like, that's one scene.
That one scene, yeah.
So imagine what it must be like for like Kit Harington and all the big dogs in that.
Yeah, it must be unbelievable for him.
Or it's too much, I think, maybe.
I don't know if I'd do well, mate, with all that.
No,
do you know what I mean?
I don't think I would. But maybe, I think Grimsby would kind of like, they just let me get on with it, I think, so. I think I'd be okay.
It's a really odd place, isn't it? Have you heard the anecdote from Sacha Baron Cohen when he came for a pint in the Blundell Arms?
Which one's the Blundell Arms? Oh, it's the hotel,
opposite the Blundell. Blundell Hotel. Yeah. Have you heard his story about when he came?
Nah.
It's amazing. He went to a town game when I think he was researching for the film Grimsby.
Yeah,
you know,
of course, yeah.
And he said, I think he told this story on Jonathan Ross, and he went in the Blundell Arms, and someone come up to him and went, "You're fucking Sacha Baron Cohen, aren't you?" And he went, "No, I'm not, mate. I'm not. You've got me wrong. Yeah. I think I had a town top on and been in that." And apparently this bloke was like, "No, you fucking are. You're Sacha Baron Cohen." And he was like, "All right, I am, but I'm trying to keep it quiet. Please, don't tell anyone. Let's keep it between us." And the bloke turned around and went, "You're not fucking Sacha Baron Cohen." And I just thought, when he told that story in Jonathan Ross, I was like, of course that happened.
That's so
he's not, that is Grimsby. And I imagine, not to say the same's happened to you, but that is like,
mate, oh,
fuck it, it's only fucking Tomo.
It does happen. People go, "Oh, you look like fucking that kid from This Is England." And I never know how to answer it because I don't want to be like, "Yes, I am." But I'm always kind of like, "Oh, yeah, kind of, thanks, mate. I get that a lot, da-da-da." And they go, "Are you fuck?" And they go, "Oh, okay. Do you want me to prove it? How do I prove it?"
Getting your IMDb
I get it, though. I get it. It's like when people meet someone famous. I'm not calling myself famous, but when people meet someone from, a football player, or when people meet, because I'm still like it with Grimsby players.
Yeah.
Or when people meet an actor from a show that they love, it's exciting, and you're kind of like,
oh mate,
I never know what to say. Like Harry Clifton I could say he's a family friend, but he's still Harry Clifton.
Yeah.
I'm still like, every time I see him at like family barbecues, I talk about work to him all the time. I'm always like, "What's going on at Donny? What's happening with town?" And da. And then I think back to when people just talk to me about work, and I'm like, "Oh, fucking shut up." But I'm like that because I don't know what else to talk about.
It shows you're humble at the end of the day. Do you know what I mean?
Grimsby town players make me like, yeah, they do make me starstruck. I was doing something at the club the other day with my little boy, and Danny Rose came over, and I've met Rosie a few times, but every time I meet him, I'm still like, I want to shout, like sing songs to him and that. You know what I mean? It's Danny Rose.
I had
yeah, it's exciting, man.
I get it with musicians. Obviously my band Healer, we played the first Docs Fest.
Yeah.
And Frank Turner was on the bill, and I love Frank Turner. I've loved his music forever. And look, I think Lottery Winners was on stage, and
class, aren't the Lottery Winners?
Yeah, unbelievable. And I went side stage to watch him, and the lads knew I'd been excited to meet Frank. I've been talking about it for days. I can't wait to meet Frank. And I got side stage, and Jazz, our drummer, he went, "Oh, Frank Turner's there." And I turned around and he was there, and I went, "Fucking hell, it's Frank Turner!" Like a little girl. But I said it that loud, even though I was on stage and the music. Yeah, I was like, "Fucking hell, it's Frank Turner!" But he heard me, and he turned around and he looked at me and he was like, I was like, "Fucking hell, I feel like a right twat now."
Yeah, he'll be cool with that.
But he was cool with it. We ended up having a bit of lunch with him backstage.
Did
and
you?
we had a good chat.
He strikes me as quite a cool bloke.
Yeah, we got a photo with him. Oh, just such a humble guy. Yeah, really nice guy. Yeah. It's funny, really. He was asking me if I'd heard of this punk band from Grimsby from the 90s, and I said, "No, I haven't, mate. It's a bit before my time." And he went, "Oh, I came to play with them at the Matrix in Grimsby. I supported them." Thought, what a nice guy, he's done thousands of gigs, but he still remembers the Matrix in Grimsby. I thought,
it's brilliant, isn't it? Healer are flying now, aren't they? You had a busy year?
Yeah, it's been pretty busy. Yeah, been pretty busy. We've we put a single out start of last year, and then we had a few gigs and stuff, but we've been spending the past year basically just trying to find our sound a bit. We've spent a lot of time in the studio writing, and then we've got some good things planned for this year.
Man. Yeah, I keep seeing it all pop up on Instagram and stuff.
Yeah.
It's so good, isn't it? Like, it's so good that people from the local area kind of doing well. And Lloyd doing so well, you guys doing so well. Like Leon Blanchard's back up and running now with his band. It's kind of like, I love it, and the Orphan Boy and all these brilliant people that are kind of trying their hardest to just do something, and it's hard to do it from Grimsby.
Yeah. Music in particular in Grimsby, it's had a resurgence over the past couple of years or so. It got so stale around here for years.
When would you say that was? Was it because I remember Bright Lights banging on the scene? And
Yeah.
being good mates with Leon at the time.
Yeah, see, I was good mates with Leon as well. Yeah,
And I just remember like it was booming.
I think,
and then Orphan Boy as well, and then it did just kind of.
Yeah, I think I was in Vina Cava with Leon for a little bit
Yeah.
before Vina Cava broke up.
I didn't know you was in Vina.
Yeah. So yeah, they had a bit of a reshuffle and lost a couple of members, and I came in on bass.
And that moved away, didn't he? And
yeah, well, Parker was Bright Lights, like.
yeah.
But yeah, there was Nick and Jazz left the band, and then I stood on bass, and then a couple of other members. But then it was around about that time the music scene started waning, kind of fizzled out. I'd say it's probably around 2010, 2011.
So it would have been when I was sort of 18. Because I remember it being good when I was 18. I remember going to like, what's that one on the corner near Machine Match, just on the corner of Freemo, upstairs, opposite the proposal. Buddies,
yeah, it's Buddies upstairs. Yeah,
I remember going in there and seeing the bright lights, and I remember thinking, "Fucking, this is amazing."
Yeah.
And then like Casablanca, I remember going in there and seeing
the Casablanca, the Orphan Boy gigs at the Casablanca.
And like, again the Matrix. I remember just thinking like, this music scene's mint.
You could go everywhere. You could go to the
all of a
Bootlegger
sudden-
every weekend. There's music on there. Beluga Bar back in the day that had everywhere had music on.
Then all of a sudden, and even like what was I remember watching Coldplay in there. Oh, what was it called? It was Star Bar for a while in town.
Star Bar.
Just at the back of Chambers.
Yeah,
What was that called? They used to do
McCorber's.
What was it called before then? It used to be. My dad will know.
Text your dad. Get your dad on it. Come on. Phone a friend.
He'll know. I can't. But I remember going in there and watching gigs, and like you say, Chambers, and
we'll find out, and I'll put a little caption over there. Yeah.
But yeah, it was. I remember the music scene then was booming, wasn't it? Then you're right. Actually, it did kind of just die. But I mean, I didn't notice it as much as what you would have done. Industry.
Yeah. It just seemed to die a death. No one was at it. But then, myself, Luke Parker's got a band up and running again. Kid Spirit.
I love him.
Leon's set back up with his Tiny Giants project.
Yeah, doing Docs soon, aren't they? That's one thing that like I'm buzzing that Will and Kate and everyone at Docs have kind of like they're just what they're doing for
ambassadors for
live
music. Yeah,
is mint because the auditorium's a good venue, but I think for live music it's not. It feels like you're in a PE hall, doesn't it?
It's like captured by the big concert tour promoters, isn't it? The auditorium.
Yeah, I mean, I went and watched Jake Bugg there the other week. I say the other week, like last year, and yeah, it felt weird. It feels weird in there. I don't know what it is. But then again, in the same breath, I watched DMA's in there, and that it was class.
I was there as well. Yeah, it was good one.
Yeah, so yeah, I remember. Yeah, I don't know what it is about that place, but the Docs Academy is class.
It's a great venue, isn't it? We played the auditorium in December, I want to say, November, December.
How was it to play?
Unbelievable, mate.
Is it good?
It's one of them. Like it's the first time I've ever played the auditorium. I've been a musician. I've wanted to play that stage with it being the biggest place in Grimsby, and we played with Coldplay. I mean, they booked us over a year ago, and we did it. Unbelievable, mate.
Yeah.
Sold out, 1,400 people.
Is that what it was? 1,400.
Yeah, 1,400 people. Sold out. It was just great, mate. Do you know what I mean? Everyone had the torches out on the phones at the end of the set, and it was a great experience.
Are they going to be using the thing in Cleethorpes even more now? The showground, because that feels like that's a bit wasted.
The Meridian Showground.
Yeah. I know that Docs Fest. I mean, it could have done a lot better, but obviously there was the weather and then the Euros.
Yeah, I was going to say the Euros put a massive dent. Well, I'd say it put a dent in it.
Well, it did. There's no denying it.
Did you go to Docs Fest?
No, where was I? I think I was on holiday. I'm sure I was in Turkey.
Yeah,
I was. I was in Turkey with the family.
Yeah.
It was a Holland game.
It was incredible, mate.
Who did we play? Not Holland.
Can't remember, to be honest. Can't remember.
We beat them. It was a team that we beat them 2-1, I think. I can't remember, but yeah.
I can't remember who was on, but I for Docs Fest, I was like going backstage.
Was you playing?
We played. We opened it. So I'm proud to, if Fila do nothing else, I'm proud to say we were the first ever band to play Docs Fest.
Are you going to play it again this year?
No, we're not. No,
we're playing that. Get you back.
Yeah, but there's no repeats, which I appreciate. Yeah. So that no one who played Docs Fest 1 is going to be on Docs Fest 2.
But then maybe on 3.
Who knows?
Oh, hopefully.
But we Will and Kate continue to support us regardless.
Of course they do, yeah. They're so good with local talent, aren't they? And
we've got a bit of a release strategy planned in terms of music for 2025, this year, and part of that plan is going to be us doing something special at the Academy.
Buzzing.
I mean, we've played the Academy a couple of times. We've played the Fresh Catch night they do, which is for like emerging talent with, I think, I can't remember how many other times. Played there at least a couple of other times. I know we played there with Sleeper and things like that, but yeah, we're going to do our own big thing there in the spring, probably. Maybe release something special for it as well. Because we can pull in a crowd round here. You know, we can pull in a crowd.
Yeah.
But anyway, less of me.
I'm enjoying this.
So I just want to touch on some themes of recovery, because it sounds from the doc side, you know, the building that we're in, the Great Escape, stroke the Black Gull.
This place is like...
It's unbelievable.
And it's like, I stumbled across it by accident.
Yeah. How did you stumble across it?
So I was doing some filming for Sky. I can't remember what I was doing. It was on the docks. And we was... Oh! Spider-Man. Sorry, mate. I just nearly knocked you over. Let me check that's still all right. Black Spider-Man. I can't. I'll try again. So we was doing some filming, and we was kind of like based just outside in the door, and I saw the doors were open in a little car park. Yeah. And I kind of poked my head and I saw a coffee machine. I was like, oh, buzzing, I'll get a coffee. And then I got chatting to the lads, and they basically just explained what the place was about, and, you know, how that, you know, about how they just kind of just do it to help themselves, you know, keep themselves distracted. And yeah, it's kind of like, I mean, you'll obviously explain it a bit better than I will, but yeah, I mean, for what they was telling me, and just the kind of the reasons that they kind of opened this place, and it kind of, they don't do it for a profit, they do it, you know, solely just to help people.
Yeah, community interest company.
Yeah, and everybody who works here is in recovery, right? Am I right in thinking that? Or
yeah, I mean, not everyone, but there is a lot of people who are in recovery who
yeah, predominantly that's what. Yeah,
but Sam Delaney, who's he's the director, but he's also the brainchild of the entire thing, you know. Yeah. He won't mind me saying he's a recovering alcoholic himself, you know. He's
that's what kind of struck me, both of them. Is it John?
Yeah, there's John who works here, and there's Justin who works here as well.
Justin, and
Sam.
And Sam.
Yeah.
So basically, they just like invited me in, and they was like, just come and have a look around, and they were showing me like this room, which is amazing. And then all the art, the artistry stuff that they've got, and then like the snug room where the film room, and then I went downstairs into the vault where all that like
the vault's great, isn't it?
It's amazing with the safe in there, and yeah, just they was telling me all about the history of the building and more history about the docks, which for me is like so fascinating because I spent so much time on here as a kid, but I never realised what it was.
Yeah,
it was just a derelict place that seemed derelict place for me to come and cause some trouble, really.
Out of bounds as well, isn't it?
Out of the way. And I've felt safe on here because none of the other kids no one really came on here. So I felt safe on here with just a couple of mates.
You might know him because he went to Intringham, Rob Boswell.
I know Rob, yeah.
So me and Rob used to be really good friends when we was younger.
London now, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's in London, yeah.
I remember he did a song called, was it Witham Road?
Witham Road, yeah. Yeah, that's a tune, that is. Yeah. As well, that's a tune.
Did he release it when we was in school? I used to hang around with him and
really
Toddy
young.
And all them lot.
Yeah.
Do you know Lewis Todd?
Yeah, I know Toddy, yeah.
Yeah, so they was all who I hung around with a lot in school.
Yeah, well, me and Rob was really good mates. I got him his first gig when we was really young, you know. But me and him used to, sounds rough now, but me and him would come sit on here, like literally just across the pontoon here, with our legs dangling off, and we'd have like fucking 6 litres of cider and 2 acoustic guitars.
Yeah, oh, man, that's
It'd be 2 in the morning. But we was just, I lived on Buller Street, he lived on Wellington Street. At one point we was like pissing in his car petrol tank to try and get about and that, we didn't have a pot to piss in, we had nothing.
No, but like you said, as long as you had, like, for you at that time was your guitar, and for us it was our bikes, our push bikes, we could get around the town, and I did say to someone before, because there was, there's areas around the town, or there's places where you might not feel so safe, or, other kids are trying to take your bike off you or whatever, but on the docks there was none of that, and it's kind of the second we snuck on here, safety.
Yeah.
Like, we might get a bit of a chase from the security, but they'll never catch us. They'll be all right.
Well, because the bright lights and Leon had that room on it.
Oh my God, that room!
It just kind of give you a free pass to get on here. No one ever questioned you when you was coming on. Just like, I'm off to the practice room.
I remember spending New Year's Eve there one night. It was fucking. I got out of hand.
There's been some debauchery going on in that room.
Yeah, there really
mate.
has. Yeah, God. Yeah, that was good fun, that little practice room. When it was just up there, wasn't it?
Yeah, just at the I say crossroads, the 5 ways or whatever, just up there. But
yeah, so this place again. yeah, just I got told all about the ethos of the place, and you know, my experiences with, you know, with alcoholism. You know, I've never needed recovery myself. I've never needed anything like that. I'm quite fortunate, but it has been in and around my life, all of my life.
Yeah.
You know, I told you.
Would you say it's been a problem at points in your life?
Yeah, I mean, I told you about, you know, my mum's struggle with alcohol, and you know, there's people in the film industry that, you know, obviously I'm not going to name any names, but people who are super close to me that, you know, struggled with alcohol and whatnot, and I kind of seeing that growing up and the effects that alcohol and drugs had on people, I was kind of like wise enough to be like, that's the downside to all the fun.
Yeah.
So you can go out and have, you know, you can enjoy yourself by all means, but you know, it's the old Warnock thing, enjoy it by being disciplined. But yeah, I kind of did. I whenever it got too much for me with the drink, because there was times when I was drinking a lot.
Yeah.
As an 18, 19-year-old. But when it got too heavy, I was kind of wise enough to knock it on the head for a little bit. When it had an effect on my mental health, or when it had an effect on work and things like that, I'd knock it on the head for a little bit. And I was quite lucky that I was able to do that.
That's good, mate. It's good
there's
that
a
you
lot
can.
of people, you know, that...
There's a lot of people who get to that point where they think, this is starting to become a bit of an issue. I think I need to curtail this a bit. But at that point, it's already too fucking late.
No.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's a sad reality for a lot of people.
And that's the thing with alcoholism, is it's a disease. And I think it's getting better now, but there is no shame in it.
No.
People think, oh, an alcoholic. They think, oh, someone who sits in the doorway, you know, begging, or in a sleeping bag, or, you know, and that's not the case. Some of the most successful people I've ever met in the industry, you know, they're in recovery. Eminem. I mean, look at. And that's why when there's been people who I know that have been like, oh, I don't need any help, or I can't ask for help, or I can't go to these meetings. And I'm like, why?
Yeah.
They're like, oh, just because it's embarrassing, innit? I go, one of the greatest rappers of all time has admitted that he needed help, and he can't do it on his own.
It's a superpower, mate.
That's what I mean. There's no shame in it. And I can't think of any person that's in recovery. And again, I've got people who are some of my best friends are in recovery, and like you said, it's a superpower, and their lives are so much better. And you know, some of them say to me, like, every day I wake up and think about having a drink. Every single day. That don't ever go away.
Yeah.
But, you know, then you do some meditation, or, you know, you go to meetings, or, you know, you speak to your sponsor, and, you know, that'll mask the want for a drink for another 24 hours.
Yeah.
And then it's a battle every single day, because
every day, daily struggle for people.
You see people who will stop drinking for a couple of weeks and go, see, I'm not an alcoholic. And it's go, just because you stop for a week, it doesn't mean that it's not still there. It doesn't go away.
Yeah.
Eminem still does meetings. He's 20 years sober or something.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, people, you still need the meetings. That's what they're there for.
Yeah.
You don't just beat it.
I think obviously mental health, particularly with men, has been a taboo subject, hasn't it? You know, but it's strange. It wasn't discussed when I was younger, and probably the same for you. Yeah, mental health and that. It just didn't really seem to be a thing.
Get on with it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It didn't really seem to be a thing, did it? You know, but I think for good reasons, it has become a lot more prevalent, and people are talking about it a lot more. And you know, suicide in young men, so it's like one of the biggest killers of young men. You know, with Sounds from the Dockside, obviously we put on our free live music events, and what we're trying to do. I
love that, by the way, and it's so cool.
Thanks, mate. It's a bit different. You know, we weren't sure if it was going to work at the start, but it seems to be flying. You know, they are intimate gigs, and we call them sober sessions.
Yeah, I love that.
And that's kind of where the podcast came from. And this kind of was born out of the gigs I was doing, because I thought I want people to understand the artist's stories, and I want people to understand how creativity can help with healing, you know. So that's why I wanted to start the podcast. But first and foremost, it was trying to provide a safe space for people who are in recovery.
The safe space is, again, it's the space project for me, the Shall You Call. Everyone needs a safe space, no matter how old you are.
Which leads me into my question, you know, obviously we're trying to foster a safe space here for people in, you know, recovery and whatnot. So what are your safe spaces now? You said about, you know, the space project and Grimsby as a whole being your safe space, but when you're in the thick of it now, mate, where's your safe space? Where do you go?
Well, first and foremost, I mean, it's family, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
You know, if I'm out having a drink now,
You can be anywhere with your family, can't you?
yeah, exactly. Or you kind of like, there's just your priorities completely change. So like, if I'm out having a drink now and it starts getting out of hand, you know what it's like. I'll go that I can just go, right, I'm off, because I know that I've got my little one in tomorrow, or
Yeah.
you know, I'm chilling, or you know, I don't, and that kind of like subconsciously, the family is like my safe haven, because I know that I don't want to ruin the next day, because it just goes back to that whole, you never know when the last day is going to be, you know what I mean? So you kind of like, I don't want to spend a whole day on that.
Time's precious, mate, isn't it?
What I mean?
You know,
it really is.
When you get to, I've got a full-time job and that, or this is ad hoc to my full-time job, you know. I get 2 days a week where I'm not working, if I'm lucky.
Do you feel like this is a bit of a safe space, doing a podcast? I think that they're kind of like, podcasting's kind of like, it's like therapy.
This is really new to me. I'm still getting to grips with it. You know, it's a bit odd because kind of like yourself, mate, I've never once for a minute thought, I'm going to be a podcaster. It's just with trying to build the Sounds from the Dockside brand.
Yeah.
And ultimately, with the podcast, I'm trying to share people's stories. You know, it's not to bolster myself. You know, money and that might come with it at some point. I don't know, but
probably not. Not with a podcast.
Yeah, but I'm not doing it for that. At the end of the day, I'm in this day and age, the age of social media.
Yeah,
people don't just want to listen to people's music. People don't just want to watch your films. They want to know intimately who you are.
Yeah, they want to know more about you, don't they?
And I thought, with a podcast, you know, I've got these different bands and artists coming in. I thought, let's give them an opportunity to hear what they're about. Do you know what I mean? And speak about what they're about. And also trying to incorporate that wider recovery theme, because that's the ethos of the place.
Well, you'll find that, like, because I mean, I've got friends who are super close to me, lads. You know, if they're feeling down or, you know, upset, we all talk about it in a group chat. It's open, you know. Oh, I'm sorry, I've been a bit quiet, lads. I've been struggling a bit. But like with this podcast, like, to sit and talk about, like, you know, my mum and the struggles and things, like, we don't get to do that often. So when you get to do it on a podcast, it's like you said, it's nice because it, you know, you can show the listeners your vulnerabilities and who you are as a person, but also you can get it off your chest.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, you know, when I'm driving to Sheffield this afternoon, it's kind of, you feel like you've got a bit of a weight off your shoulders, or, you know, you've got something off your chest, because you're chatting, you're talking about the things that you don't get to talk about every day. So like that's why podcasts are so good, whether people are listening for whatever reason. But
I find people so interesting. Do you know what I mean? I love different people, and already with this podcast, even though you're episode 4, like episode 1 I did with Luke Parker and Steve Heather from Kid Spirit, and I kind of know him. I wouldn't say we're close, but I know him. Do you know what I mean? I found stuff out about them that I would never have expected.
Well,
do you know what I mean?
And
like that's what I'm finding beautiful about this podcast is people who I think I know. I don't fucking know.
And you're making new friends. Like, we know each other obviously through bits and bobs, and I know you obviously came along and played the fundraiser that I did for the show. But you know, it's nice that we sit down properly and have a proper and. You know what I mean? You get to meet new people all the time, and podcasts are exciting for that. And I guess and then that shows as well for the audience, because, you know, whilst you're getting these guests in, you know, because if you got, you know, Stephen Graham come on, that'd bring in new listeners, but also for you as well. That's exciting because you get to sit down with someone who you respect.
Yeah, 100%.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's kind of like it's. Podcasts are brilliant for that. They're like little therapy sessions.
Yeah, and I love consuming podcasts. You know, there's a few podcasts I regularly watch.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
I watched a few of yours, mate. Why have you stopped yours? What's going on there?
Because you know, with podcasts, there's a lot of hard work for very little reward.
Yeah.
In a sense that, like, and you've got to be consistent with them. That's the main thing. Like, if someone says to me, "Oh, have you got any advice for doing a podcast?" The only thing I would say is just to be consistent. And we struggled with that because we did them all in Manchester, and we would shoot, I don't know, 8 or 9 at a time. Then that'd mean I'd have to be in Manchester for 3 days. And, you know, 3 days is valuable time.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, unless you've got a big sponsor or something, you're not making any money from it. And it's kind of, it got to the point where we was like, we don't only do it for the money, of course not, but it started costing me a lot of money.
Yeah.
So it's like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And obviously, the thing is as well, is when you've got 2 actors as a host, Andy might have gone and got a job for 4 months.
Yeah.
And then we're in trouble, because then you've got to get 4 months of a backlog. And then if I'm then working for another 3 months after that, there's 8 months 7. There's 7
But I
months.
know you mean your schedule's just messed up. Yeah.
And then getting guests. Oh my God, getting guests. I exhausted everything and everyone that I knew, really. And I don't want to be that kind of guy that's like, you know, I don't want to be like, hey mate, I did Soccer AM with you in 2010. Do you want to come to Manchester and do a podcast?
You mean like I was with you? All right, mate, I met you that one.
Yeah, but I live 2 minutes around the corner, so it's sound. But, you know, I don't want to say to, I don't know, Sheridan Smith or Will Mellor or any. I just listed the 2 pints of lager cast there, haven't I?
Oh, mate.
But I don't want to say to them, oh, will you come all the way over and do this podcast? Do you know what I mean? Because I don't know these. I know them to say hello to, and I've met them a couple of times, but they're not, I wouldn't say they're friends. So I'm kind of like, yeah, I don't know. I hate asking favours. I'm one of those. Like,
yeah. Well, I had to ask you this favour, mate. I've got to.
Like say, but it's not. It's no biggie, is it? For me to come.
And like I said, I'm glad you came on, mate. It was a bit of a punt. I know, obviously, we met before, and we helped each other out that night, didn't we?
Well, like I say, mate, for the listeners who didn't know, I did a fundraiser for the NSPCC for the Shall Youth Club, and you guys came along last minute.
Yeah,
you jumped on late, and we had a bit of technical issues, didn't we? But you did a little acoustic set, and it was brilliant. Everyone was buzzing with the music, and
it was a really good night as well, mate. Because
night, wasn't it?
I don't know if you can tell, but I'm a big fan of the This Is England franchise. No, I genuinely am, mate. I loved it growing up. I loved the culture of it and everything. I was really into like mod culture and stuff when I was younger, and it was just great. And I feel like, without sounding too sort of fluffy, I was you. Do you know what I mean? In a different body.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You was on screen, but you was me. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, really? As Sean in the film?
I just, in a sense, but not just that, but in reality as well.
Well, I think that's
we was knocking about on Grant Forrell Park. Do you know, like
we probably had a couple of fights when we was younger at some point.
I might have battered you. Who knows? But yeah, it's just young people in Grimsby didn't really have any role models, didn't really have anyone from Grimsby who was doing anything around that time. And I found that beautiful, mate, as a young person, seeing that there's someone the same age as me who knocks about in the same circles, who's really doing something.
Yeah, and that's so important. Isn't it?
And
Stephen Graham always says that. He says, because there was a kid who lived near him, a guy called Bobby Schofield, who was on telly one day, and Stephen was like, what?
Yeah.
Like, this guy lives across the road from me. Like,
yeah.
What? So if he can be on the telly, then so can I. And he literally, it was that day when he saw that bloke on telly, and he went, I'm going to do that because people from around here can do that, but I never knew that we could.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like, that's it's so nice to hear people say that, because these are the stories that I grew up listening to, and like what you say with Stevie saying all that about Bobby being on telly. And if you see someone from a local area doing well, it's like, because it's that cliche thing, and I always put off. Over the years, I got asked to go into schools and things to talk to kids, and I always put it off because I was like, I don't really know what to say.
Yeah.
Get excluded from school and be a little shit, and you might get put in a film, daddy. and that's not that. And then only now as an adult, I realised that's not why they was asking me to go. They was asking me to go to the schools to be a role model and show to the kids that whatever you're going through now as a kid, like you say, if there's no role models in your life, or separated parents, or underprivileged or whatnot, there is opportunities out there for kids. It's just kind of having that belief in it. It's like someone local to show them that if you
that it's possible, mate. Yeah, that it's possible. I mean, I was lucky. My mum and dad was happily married for years. It didn't come from the broken home or anything like that. But my mum worked all hours of the day. My dad worked all hours of the day. Me and my brothers and that, we was just kind of
left to your own vices. And
yeah, I mean, we was looked after, we was cared for, but we didn't have no money. Do you know? We had to do our own thing. Do you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, seeing you on the screen at that young age, I was thinking, like you know, not to say in the moment I was having these cognizant thoughts, but it definitely resonated with me at the time that I might come from nothing, but it doesn't always have to be this.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly.
Someone like yourself landing something like that, I've never been into acting or out like that, but it kind of gives you that ambition.
But then neither had I. Like I said, I didn't have any of that. I didn't want to be, but when that opportunity...
What did you want to be? What did you want to be when you was a little kid?
Footballer, innit?
Yeah.
That's what every kid wants to be, a football player or...
I wanted to be a soldier.
Yeah, I did, yeah. But then obviously that, you said you went away to...
I did it, and I was fucking disappointed, mate.
But at least you gave it a go. And again, that's another story for the kids. Like, you wanted to be a soldier, and you made that happen.
When I was younger as well, fucking, and I stick thin, I had no muscle, do you know what I mean? I couldn't do 10 pressure. You bastard. But no, do you know what I mean? It was like, people must have laughed at me when I thought, when I was younger, I'm going, I want to be a soldier. You know what I mean? I must have thought,
grow up, mate.
Better off in the RAF, mate. But it's like, but yeah, I did it. You know, it was disappointing. Shame it didn't turn out to be the career.
But at least you can sit here now and go, I did exactly what I wanted
to
do.
No regrets, mate. No regrets.
Exactly.
I left a fucking good job as well to join the army, and it was just because I had that itch, and I thought, I've got to do it. I'm fit. I'm strong and healthy. I've got to do it now, otherwise I'm going to regret it forever.
Well, that's it. And you've got to do the things that, because like you said then, when people might have been laughing at you saying, "Oh, you want to be a soldier?" Like, imagine me playing pretend in films and on telly. And I felt stupid when I was a kid. I didn't want to watch anything that I did. Or I didn't want my mates to watch it because I always thought that they'd, think I was shit at it, or if I wasn't Tomo. Do you know what I mean? Like that. Yeah. But then you kind of like, you push all that aside. And again, that's another thing about getting older now. Like, I kind of watch the things that I do and kind of make decisions on set and kind of think, right, I do this for that reason or for that reason. Whereas when you're a kid, it is kind of that. You kind of just got to push all that aside and just go, I'm doing it for me. Do you know what I mean? That's, like you were being a soldier. It's kind of, that's what you wanted to do, so you went and did it. So.
Yeah, man, I was that kid at primary school on non-school uniform day where everyone's there in the trackers and that, and I'd be there in fucking full DPM camouflage, mate. Do you know what I mean? I was that kid.
Oh, that's ace though. I love that.
So sad, mate.
No,
so
it's
sad.
not at all. I wouldn't say that's sad. That's all, mate.
So, just back to sort of the recovery theme. What, do you have any thoughts on how creativity can help with healing? Like for me, touching on that safe space idea, I feel like I need to make music regularly for my mental health. It's like I go away for a few days, come home, bags down in the hallway, and I'm in the living room straight away, just tinkling with an acoustic, because I've been away from it for a few days, and like healer, it's like my weekly solace, because I know once a week I'm going to meet up with like-minded people. I'm going to make music. So it's like
people is important.
For me, it's like I guess the podcast falls into it as well. It's like I've always got to be doing something creative to keep my brain focused on everything else, if you know what I mean.
I do know exactly what you mean. But for me, like I love being around like-minded people. And my mate said it to me the other day in the gym. He was like, you're such a creature of habit. Because I come away from, I was filming in Manchester for a few weeks, about 5 weeks. And I got back and I was like, I think I want to move to Manchester. I want it because there's like-minded people there, and I want to be with all the creatives and da-di-da-di-da.
Yeah.
And then I get home, and within a week, I'm like, nah, I love playing golf. I love just going to the gym. I love being with normal people in the real world.
Yeah.
So there's that kind of like, I love being around creative people. I love being around like-minded people. But then also, on the other hand, I love just being around scaffolders and people who work on the refineries and people who work on, on the boats. And I kind of love that because it's escapism again. It's kind of like it detaches me away from that kind of whirlwind of the industry that I really don't want to get lost in. Do you know what I mean? Like,
it's just a melting pot of...
It can be, yeah.
But, it seems to me like there's a lot of different creatures in that industry as well. Do you know what I mean?
It's kind of... And it's very worky. But, yeah, I don't know. I kind of like... I separate myself. It's almost like when I get to Hatfield Services, Donny Roundabout, I'm work Tomo.
Yeah.
But then when I'm coming this way and I get past Forest Pines, I'm like... I'm just...
So it's almost like...
I'm Tomo. Do you know what I mean? What was that?
I've no idea. Some sounds going on outside the room somewhere. Someone's exciting.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, but like with recruit, that sort of working.
But it's almost like the opposite for you, isn't it? Like for me, I need to be creative. That's like...
That's your...
I wouldn't say... it's almost like a medicine in a sense. Do you know what I mean? It's not like I'm madly ill when I don't, but I'm not myself when I'm not being creative. I've got to keep being creative, you know, and that could be something as simple as just trying to write a piece of music at home or trying to learn a piece of music. Yeah. But for you, it kind of seems the opposite. It's like your work kind of not creates the problems, but it's like you do your work and you love your work.
Love it.
But then it's almost like you use your family and you use not working as your healing, don't you?
And golf and exercise are the kind of like, they're the times when I'm not on my phone. And I'm just like, it's the only thing that really matters at that time is whether I'm going to make this putt and it sounds ridiculous, or whether, you know, when I'm at the gym, I'm with my mate and we don't talk about anything other than what's going on at that time. And it's kind of like, I think that's quite important to not get sort of sucked up in or worrying about work. Do you know what I mean? Because a lot of people in my industry, and especially on the acting side of it, we spend a lot of time out of work. If I sit at home and worry about it and panic about work, you know, it can send you crazy. Yeah. So I'm quite lucky that I've kind of got this, I like hobbies and things like that keep you entertained. And
there's so many, like, I know so many people who don't even have a hobby.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
My wife doesn't really.
Yeah.
She doesn't really. I mean, she's so busy. She's a nursery nurse, so she has like 10 kids all day, every day. And then she gets home and then she's got 2 kids in me and my little boy.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, so when she's tired, I get it. Because when I have my little boy for one afternoon, I'm like, I'm knackered.
Yeah, they're a whirlwind at 3 years old.
So I say to her, like, you should, like, you know, going to play badminton or, you know, go out and doing something. But, you know, she likes swimming, I guess, and she goes to the gym. So I guess so. But like, yeah, I don't know. I've always been so I can't sit and do nothing. This will be the longest that I'll sit this week.
Yeah.
Because I just don't like sitting at home. I can't.
I'm the same, mate. But before we started the podcast, John was in here, wasn't he? And he was saying you need to stop fidgeting on the episode, wasn't he?
Yeah. Just sitting down. I'm like, it does. It drives me mad. Just like sitting down.
I can't sit still. Honestly, mate. That's why I'm fidgeting in episodes because I literally can't sit still. But good for losing calories, isn't it? I guess. So, have you got any dream projects or collaborations that you'd love to work on in the future, or what, you know, it would be your most ideal co-star or your most ideal director to work with, or come on, you might get a job out of this.
Yeah, I don't know really. I'm kind of like, it sounds ridiculous, but I'm not really like a dreamer.
Yeah,
and I don't know whether that stems from being like, I don't know, just East Marsh and just kind of like, I don't know. I just kind of take it as it comes. I mean, there's obviously like actors like Jake Gyllenhaal I'd love to work with.
Fantastic actors. I
mean, it's like I'd love to work with Jim Carrey.
It'd be brilliant.
There is people that I would obviously love to work with, but again, I don't stress about it. And if it does come, I'm buzzing. I just like, I don't know. I just try not to think about work too much, and maybe it's a bad thing. Maybe that's holds me back.
If it works for you, mate, and you're happy.
The main thing is happiness.
100%.
I don't want to stress about work.
Yeah. So you've recently finished, last year is Mickey 17 you was working on with Robert Pattinson and Mark Ruffalo.
Yeah, so Rob Pattinson.
How was that working with him? Because he's a huge name in the business.
Amazing. Like, you know, Rob was super cool. We was working during the World Cup and he'd come to like a local boozer with us and watch England. Mark Ruffalo I stayed in touch with Mark. I had him singing "We Piss on Your Fish." He's like, because Grimsby were playing up in Cheltenham in the FA Cup when we had the cup run. Like in between takes, I was asking, like, "What's the score?" to the crew members, and Mark was like, "What's going on?" And I was like, "This is my team," and then I got him singing "We Piss on Your Fish." And so he'd become a bit of a town fan. He was like, "What's the score?" So, and yeah, he would, like, when we was working every night, he would text us saying we're going to Wagamama's or we're going to Nando's. So Mark was really like, he was so sweet in the sense that you would never expect from like an A-lister. He's a Hollywood A-lister, you know, Oscars, and he's the Hulk. But yeah, he was so sweet, and like, he always checks in on me and the family, and it's so weird to say that because
a bit surreal, isn't it?
It is surreal, but then also like I quickly just forgot that he was who he is, and I just took him for a really sweet, gentle guy who's been through a lot in his own life.
You know
he's
what?
got a lot going on.
That warms my heart when I hear that about when people have had interactions with people who have got some fame and success, and when they're humble about it. Do you know what I mean?
Like, yeah, I mean, he knows everybody. He's like, but he doesn't. You know, he's like I said, he's been through a lot in his own life, and he was really intrigued about my story and how I, again, because he was saying, I always think, how am I here?
Yeah,
and I'm like, dude, you're Mark Ruffalo. Like
imposter syndrome.
We're all here because of you, but he doesn't see that. He's
it's a real thing, though, isn't it? Imposter syndrome. It is a real thing.
So it was, So it was refreshing to hear that, you know, even people at the top of the game are still so grateful and still think that they're going to get caught out one day for, you know, cheating their way to the top of the industry.
Yeah.
But so that was a great job. Yeah, that was brilliant. And I mean, I think I'm not sure when it's supposed to be out. I think they're aiming for Easter weekend now. So when's that? It's like March, April time, isn't it?
Yeah, I saw him when I was doing a bit of research. I saw it was coming out March
like
time. But you said earlier it's already been pushed back, hasn't it?
It was supposed to be in January, I think, but January is just a terrible time for cinemas anyway.
And just for the listeners, just to give them an idea of what to expect from Mickey 17, what's the theme of the film?
Oh, don't ask me what it's about. I don't know. So, like, it's on a huge scale. It's a sci-fi. Pattinson plays the lead, and basically he plays what they call an expendable. A higher power have created this world where basically it's all set on a spaceship, and we're traveling from different planets to planets trying to find civilization. And Robert Pattinson's character, they've created this machine which basically can reprint versions of themselves.
All right.
So basically it started when Mickey 1, Mickey 2, Mickey 3,
and they're
Mickey
up to
4.
17.
Ended up to 17, but when they sent Mickey 17 out onto a mission, they thought he'd been killed. So they printed Mickey 18, and Mickey 17 then turns back up. So then they've got two versions of Mickey 17 and 18, or the same person, and Rob Pattinson plays both of those.
Greedy.
Which is it's all a bit. I don't really know what it's about, really.
To be honest, mate, the premise sounds really good from what you've told me.
Yeah,
so keep it there.
It's a really hard one, and I'm glad I won't have to do much press about it.
Well, listeners are gonna have to watch it now, aren't they?
Yeah, but the whole thing was just like, it was brilliant, and it was directed by Bong Joon-ho, who made Parasite. You know, did you watch the Korean?
I haven't seen it. No,
there's a Korean movie called Parasite. That
I'm familiar with it, but
11
I've just not
Oscars,
watched it yet. Yeah,
I think it won 11 Oscars. Yeah, which was an amazing film, but he's got such a deep message behind all his films. So yeah, if you get a chance to watch Parasite, mate, it's one of the best films I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's on the list. It is on the list.
Yeah.
I've seen it advertised, and it's come recommended as well. But just one of them not got around to yet.
Yeah,
but
it's a cracking
same
film.
with Birdsong that's on Netflix. You're in that as well, aren't you?
Yeah, so Birdsong's on Netflix, which is a weird one because we made that. It's a series based on a novel by Sebastian Faulks. So we shot that in Budapest about 12 years ago, I think.
Really?
So it was out on BBC way back when.
Yeah.
And then it's come around on Netflix, and now it's like people are coming up to me and saying, "Oh, Birdsong's," and I'm like, not to sound bad, but I forgot that even existed. I'm like, because it was so long ago and so many jobs ago, and you know, it was I had such a good job working on that. I was working with Eddie Redmayne and Richard Madden, and
it looks so cinematic. The work that's gone into it, it looks incredible. It looks incredible.
It was the whole job was brilliant. But now it's kind of like, but that's what Netflix. That's the power of Netflix, man. It's like
regurgitating films.
Bryan Cranston was doing. He was doing an interview, and he said that Breaking Bad was out and it was on HBO or whatever it was, and he said, and it was big. People knew what it was in America, but he said, but when it came onto Netflix, it was like, it changed his life.
Yeah, bang. Yeah,
it was like it blew it up. So hopefully this time in 6 months when Birdsong's blown up.
Never say never, mate.
Yeah. But Netflix is great for that. It's great for the actors. Not so great for the producers. Well, I suppose it is because they get more money from it, but. Yeah, it's good for us as the actors because a lot of people see it. So
So obviously now that's made a resurgence on Netflix. But will you benefit from that financially?
No, I don't think so. No, I mean Eddie Redmayne might because he's the lead, but I think way down the pecking order. Yeah, I don't think I will. Yeah, I'm not. I don't know.
That's a shame, isn't it?
You'd be alright if I got a little random check, wouldn't I? But even if I did it, it'd be like it wouldn't be much.
Wouldn't hurt, would
it?
Do you know what I mean?
I might pay for a couple of rounds of golf or something.
You at it every week, aren't you, mate?
Golf. Mate, yeah. Well, not so much when the weather's like this, but through summer, God, yeah, you can't stop me. I'm like, yeah. Do you know when we were saying about all the drinking culture and stuff? Wasn't a year go by from me being 18 right up to me being 25, 26 that I didn't have a lads holiday. The lads, Benidorm or Mago or Ibiza or any places. We'd go anywhere we could. Now, golf holidays, mate.
Yeah.
I get, and I don't really drink that much. And yeah, I get to go away with a couple of the lads.
You don't need
to have a drink, but
I'm not in recovery from alcohol or anything like that. Over I think I probably had a glass of Prosecco and a glass of Bucks Fizz.
Yeah.
That was all over Christmas and New Year. Just don't bother me.
No,
and it's mainly because I typically have about 2 days off a week, and I don't want to spend them feeling like shit because
you don't want to spend one day drunk and another day hungover, do you?
Exactly. I've got my little girl. I need to be on top form for her. I'd much rather not go out and spend a full day out with the family doing something.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
Much more rewarding, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, what have you got coming up, mate? What can the listeners look forward to in 2025 from you?
I have literally just finished a film called Synthesizer. Okay. That's what it's called at the moment.
Subject to change.
Subject to change, could change. The director was sort of toying with different ideas. It was of the great director called Chris Green. He made a good film called Pebble and the Boy way back when. It was about mods and scooters and things. But he's a mod. And the film's... I don't want to give too much of it away. It's a bit sort of like a dark comedy horror about a man and a woman who've sort of mundane been married for, 15 years or whatever.
Yeah.
And she goes, I don't want to ruin the film. She basically does something that's unforgivable and it sort of spins the film off onto this sort of like a love story gone wrong.
Yeah.
I kind of don't want to ruin the film too much, but yeah, I mean, it was the first time I've been the lead in a film for a few years. So, like, I was in every single scene, every single day. So that was kind of like, it was tiring, which I haven't really felt like on a film set for a while. Because I've always kind of been in for a day, then I'll have a couple off, then I'll be in for a week, and I'll have a few days off. Whereas this was like all day, every day. So, yeah, that was nice and rewarding. So that led me up to Christmas. So that's called
Fun process. You loved it. Enjoyed the job, yeah. Yeah,
so that was good. And I think they're trying to get that out for like June, July, maybe this year. So that should be quite good. And then, there's a few little things floating around. I'm supposed to be doing a job over in Australia at some point. I'm just still waiting for dates. Okay.
You ever been over there?
Never been. Beautiful, no, but I know Lloyd Griffith.
Yeah, Lloyd loves it. I've messaged Lloyd to come on this, and he's not even read my message.
Has he not read it? Well, I'll give him a ring after this.
Bit gutted. You know what I mean? I thought we was friends, Lloyd. I thought you liked Taylor and that.
I'll make sure he gets on it. But yeah, so and I think when did he go over there? He went over there a couple of years ago.
On and off, haven't they?
He did the Return to Paradise thing.
We was chatting to him last year. I mean, every time we kind of put something out, we're like, "What, Lloyd?" And he was over there then, so I'm pretty sure he was over there at some point last year.
Yeah,
I think he might have come back from Australia to compare Docsfest as well.
Yeah, well, he finished. I don't know when he finished it, but he's told me all about Australia and how amazing it is. So yeah, hopefully I get to go over there for a few weeks, maybe a couple of months, and then I mean, it's one of those. I'm attached to a few jobs. I've got my name attached to a few scripts, but I never believe them. Never believe they're going to go ahead until they're there, because for whatever reason, a lot of them fall through. And so.
Probably a good way to be then, mate.
Again, mate, I just don't. I'm kind of lucky in a sense, but I think it might hinder me at times. But I'm just like.
But at least you're not cutting yourself up in between jobs, mate.
Nah.
Yeah,
but I don't know. Yeah, maybe that's just a luxury that I've got of, being able to sort of pick and choose my work, but. Yeah, I'm kind of, I try not to stress about anything. I don't stress about anything. And it annoys people. It annoys my missus, Charlotte. She hates it because things might go on and I'm just like, it's fine. Not bothered.
Yeah.
There's no point in worrying about it.
Good mentality, mate. Yeah. Good outlook.
Yeah, until I'm playing golf, then I get fucking stressed. Yeah. But that's the only thing that actually stresses me out. Golf and town, when town lose.
I thought you meant freshen your place.
No, yeah, that stresses me out as well.
And you've been doing a bit of DJing, haven't you?
For years, yeah.
Yeah. So how'd that come about? What got you into that?
Vicky McClure, who played Lol in This Is England.
Yeah, she's a great actress.
She's class and shit.
Yeah, unbelievable actress.
So Vicky rang me one day, and this is when I was working in the Parity in town. I was working behind the bar.
Was that for weeks, eh? Did Paul have it then?
No, it was before he had it. I was working there, yeah. And I was working, and Vicky rang me, and she was like, "What are you doing this weekend?" I said, "Oh, I ain't got nothing planned." She said, "Do you want to do some DJing in Leeds?" And I was like, "What?" She went, "Oh, I'm supposed to be DJing in Leeds, but I can't make it for whatever reason. And I've just spoke to them, and they'd love to have you along." And I was like, "Vix, I've never DJed. What?" She was like,
"Just press play."
She was like, "Between me and you, right, there'll be someone there with you. You just look like you know what you're doing. Like, you can do that, can't you?" And I was like, And then she was like, "They'll put you up in a hotel with your mates, and they'll get you pissed, and they'll pay you." And I was like, "Right, okay." And then, I can't remember how much it was. Good money. It was like, I don't know, 500 quid or $1,000 or something for a night to get pissed on my mates.
Yeah.
And I was like, fucking, I'm
Sign
in.
me up.
So I went along, and then, just kind of like winged it with a co-DJ. And then Vicky introduced me to her DJing booking agent. And then he was like, "I can get you doing loads if you want." I was like, "That much money a time?" And he was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Fucking sound." And then slowly but surely, I learned a lot, a bit like acting. I learned on the job. I learned with This Is England. It chucked me in at the deep end. Chucked me in front of a crowd of, 500 people or 1,000 people, and I'll figure it out. I'll get it done. I don't know how, but I'll do it. Do you know what I mean? So I kind of slowly but surely started tweaking around with little things and then mixing music, and then now, I don't really do it so much anymore because it just involves getting drunk all the time, and I can't be asked.
Don't like being in the environment.
Sometimes I like doing it. I can use it, as an excuse for a night out with the lads, or me and Charlotte can go away.
Yeah.
But no, I don't really do it that often anymore.
There's a few actors who've dipped their toes in the DJing.
It's easy money.
We played a festival last year in I want to say Shrewsbury Heel Festival. So it was a trek away. But Craig Charles was DJing.
Yeah, he's a fun consultant.
Yeah. He's a great DJ as well. But he's one of them, I thought.
Robot Wars, remember that?
Yeah. He was like, I've loved him from Red Dwarf days, mate.
Red Dwarf as well, yeah.
But he's one of them. I was like, lads, Craig Charles is DJing about 3 p.m. We need, I want to be side stage for a round when he's going to turn up because I want to meet him, And I thought, I have this really bad expectation of musicians and people with fame. I think they're all going to be arrogant dickheads. Do you know what I mean? And that's bad. I probably need to manage that a bit and have a bit of a better outlook on people.
Yeah.
But I kind of set myself up for the worst in a sense. Do you know what I mean? With these interactions. We were side stage. Craig come through the gate and that, and he walked over, and I was like, "No, then Craig, how's it going, mate?" And he was just like, "All right, boys," and he just sat there for about an hour with us.
Did he?
Yeah, just sat
I've
down.
heard he's a class act.
He just sparked to Siggy up, just sat there. And then after he got off stage, he came to chat to us and that. He was going from Shrewsbury to go to his radio show, so we was like,
"Was it Radio 2 we did or something like
that?"
Yeah.
No, sorry, Radio 6 Music.
Yeah. I would have got there in the end with the numbers. Yeah, no, I've heard
we was giving him business cards like, "Fucking give us a shout out, go on, get us played on 6. No, I don't think he did. We didn't get. You usually get an email when the BBC play you saying you've been played, but we didn't have one. So fuck you, Craig. Right, mate. It's been amazing to have you in. Honestly, I've had such fun time, mate. It's been great chatting to you. Have you got anything you'd like to plug before we close today's episode?
No, all good. We spoke about the Mickey 17 thing, haven't we? And then about Synthesizer that's coming out. And yeah, mate, I think we've covered it all, bud. Yeah.
Spot on, mate. Well, thank you very much.
Mate, pleasure. No worries, mate. Honestly, I've really enjoyed it. It's a nice bit of therapy.
Everyone listening at home, if you've liked what you've listened to, please hit the like button and hit subscribe. Thank you very much.
Nice one.